If we want to take democracy seriously, then everyone has a responsibility to become the kind of person who can participate in this time of crisis with climate inequality and authoritarianism. That responsibility to be and remain educated falls on each of us. So reading and growing has become urgent, not optional. When you open a novel, you're training yourself to live more fully within the world. You're investing in how you imagine other people's lives and how you think through complexity. Novels are one of the last places where you practice the slow attention and the deep thinking that this kind of public life requires. In this video, I want to look at our real and imagined institutions from the past 3 episodes and explore why reading fiction matters to a thriving democracy. I'll also provide 10 works of American fiction that help us to become better participants in our society. These ideas have extensive cross-cultural traditions. So I'm going to give you a few tried and true, if not cliched, examples. So first of all, Plato, Aristotle, and Confucius all put education at the center of a healthy civic society, of course, in their own way. These ideas were later transformed by Jefferson and Madison, who wrote, and I paraphrase, that freedom and ignorance cannot coexist. Finally, literacy and education and democracy are essentially intertwined in the African American literary tradition, from Frederick Douglass, who said, "Education means emancipation. To deny education to any people is one of the greatest crimes against human nature." Then to Anna Julia Cooper, who believed in the necessity of education to form the whole person, mind, body, and spirit. She was another prominent Black intellectual. If you've been following this channel, this talk may be familiar to you. The last 3 videos that I've done have all circled around the same concerns, but from different angles. I've been talking to you about Black American literature, Latin American literature, climate, extractivism, and how novels make us pay attention to our dormant political lives. Those videos were really about social crisis. And I want to talk about how reading fiction can be a form of positive and impactful democratic training. If taking democracy seriously demands that we stay educated, then in a media-saturated, polarized 21st century America, reading fiction is one of the best ways we have to nourish and forge our inner lives. If we want a just society, we have to take education and reading seriously as a public good and as a personal responsibility. So the question I want to ask for the rest of this video is simple. What might that look like right now in the United States? My answer is this: that fiction has become one of the most powerful and most overlooked forms of education we still have. So I want to spend a little time on why reading novels matters for a healthy public life, and then turn to American books that dig into some of the big issues our democracy faces. Why does reading fiction matter to a thriving democracy? Reason number 1: fiction deepens access to differing perspectives. America benefits from all of our differing perspectives. And throughout history, societies have progressed from having fresh, diverse viewpoints to renew themselves. Fiction asks us to share time, space, and thought with perceptions that may vary from our own. Now, difference does not necessarily mean opposition or confrontation. Rather, these are views that you may not have considered without their studied introduction through stories. And novels, of course, are one of the primary places that we can see the shaped perspectives. Also, contrary to popular belief, this idea is not just about empathy. Rather, understanding difference is a necessary intellectual act where we test and reevaluate our own assumptions so that we adapt to changes in the world. Reason number 2. Fiction reveals structures of thinking. So, what does this mean? Behind every story are systems of thinking, laws, markets, race, gender, geography, ecology. Astute readers unearth those systems and think about questions like, what are the institutions and incentives that keep producing these cycles that we live in? And by reading, we try to learn about ideas beyond oversimplifications like bad people do bad things. Reason number 3. Fiction teaches comfort with ambiguity and conflict. Good novels refuse a tidy moral and political conclusion. Instead, they leave themselves open to insight, interpretation, analysis, all of the good stuff. Ideally, by the nature of their length, they will instigate complex questions that allow us to see multiple possibilities without retreating to a single, simple answer. To be realistic, not all books or readers will do this all of the time. But if you talk with most lifelong learners, they'll point to at least one book that has given them this sort of insight. I'm going to give you 10. Reason number 4, fiction exposes national narratives. As well as revealing systems of thought, novels inhabit global and national narratives. They reveal and challenge who we think we are. And they seek that retelling from the margins, from new ideas. For example, enslaved people's descendants, indigenous writers, immigrants, and workers have constantly amended this official story. And they've demanded a broader sense of we. Keeping this national story open to revision is both an American tradition and a democratic act. Reason number 5, fiction sustains depth in an age of superficial noise. As I walked into the local bookstore the other day, I saw above the door the words, "Read more, doom scroll less." Yes. This gets to the heart of the matter. Our media environment is built to extract and fragment attention to trigger our emotions. Reading fiction is training to sit with complex narratives for a sustained period of time. It's good for your brain. It is also, in essence, a civic skill that helps you reclaim your brain for the tasks of engaging with public life. So, if fiction can educate our imaginations and our attention in ways democracy urgently needs, the practical question becomes, what should we read? The books that I'm about to give you are not the only options, but the following 10 American novels offer a rich syllabus for anyone who wants to think more deeply about some of the important concepts facing the country. These are not necessarily the best novels, They give us a broad cultural landscape to learn more about America, ourselves, and the we. What I've done with organizing this list is I've provided you with groupings that I hope will make sense and help you make connections with these kind of civic and American ideas that we're going to talk about. So I'm going to give you groups of novels, and you'll also see the novels individually. The first two novels are about the long view of history and race. Homegoing by Yaa Gyasi takes readers through several generations of history from West Africa to America. Gyasi traces the lives of two sisters and their descendants. She looks at the impact of slavery, and she also invites readers to see a long span of history as material to contemporary conditions. The novel shows that the past is a living, ongoing system of reality. Lots of people love that book. Charles Chesnutt is not a household name, but he is a classic American author from the late 19th century and early 20th century. He wrote about race. The Marrow of Tradition is his most well known book. It was inspired by true events in Wilmington, North Carolina, when white supremacist mobs destroyed Black neighborhoods and killed Black citizens. It was officially labeled a coup attempt. The immediate story, however, is about two half sisters with the same white father. One sister is white and the other is mixed race. They have two different lives. But one day, these lives come into conflict. The book is a little melodramatic because it's from the 19th century, but it is an important expression of race from that part of time. And it speaks to the relevant historical period in American history. So it's worth reading. Chestnut shows that the thin layer of Southern tradition is a veneer over deeper violent beliefs. The next three novels are about American social class and labor. The first one up is John Dos Passos's famous first novel in the USA trilogy. It's called The 42nd Parallel. It's really a montage of different scenes told from a variety of worker narratives, business people, and also media snippets, newspaper clips, radio, things like that. The realist perspectives of American life are less a story and more of a collage. And readers are tasked with assembling together all of these pieces into meaning from a variety of, we'll call them vignettes. It's a very interesting read, and it's a book that I do recommend and I love. And altogether, it tells the story of America in the early 20th century. It could also be paired with a later novel that we'll discuss that also addresses mass media in America. The Grapes of Wrath by John Steinbeck is pretty obvious choice, I realize. It dramatizes the lives of a Dust Bowl migrant family. That's the 1930s. Even though it is a pretty big book, I've yet to really meet a person who has not been deeply affected after reading it. Even now, I'm sure that there are people out there, but you kind of have to be cold and dead not to at least get a little emotional in a few parts. The Joad family experiences the trials of deep poverty, as well as solidarity with other migrants along the road. Steinbeck shows how economic inequalities actually undermine real freedom through this family. The final novel of this grouping is from Helena Maria Viramontes and is called Under the Feet of Jesus. It was a winner of the John Dos Passos Prize, oddly enough. And it's a very readable and very short book. The main character is Estrella, a young girl who is coming of age in a migrant Mexican family who's from Southern California, actually. As she grows, Estrella becomes more aware of the toll migrant labor has on her family's life. So the book is all about really her observations and reactions to the world around her and seeing all this going on. It's a beautiful story, and it's about social awareness and family that, like the previous books, expands the horizon of American identity and experience. The next novels are about American institutions and reform. I wanted to include another 19th century novel in this list, so I looked to The Blithedale Romance by Nathaniel Hawthorne. I can hear some people groaning out there. This is one of my wildcat selections for this list. It's safe to say that this is one of Hawthorne's lesser known novels, but it actually has a lot to say about Hawthorne's own experience in a utopian commune with other idealists. Now, to be clear, this book is fiction, though. It examines the tensions within idealistic movements and really how they can succumb to the same petty conflicts as most other groups. It challenges contemporary readers to think more complexly about the reality of social movements and also their flaws, but without dismissing all of their accomplishments. Or we can simplify this and say, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater because the ideas may be good, even if the group is flawed. Secondly, the book is a revealing peek into the hippies of the 19th century. Ralph Ellison's The Invisible Man is another obvious choice, but it is an essential choice for any American list. The story is told from the perspective of an unnamed black man who experiences a series of humiliating events. Like, for example, the book's infamous battle royale scene. The main character concludes that he is invisible to the people and institutions around him because rather than seeing him as a person, he's used as a tool to achieve others' goals at school, work, and politics. These setbacks prompt him to envision a world where he might think independently of his constraints. The book is an excellent examination of structural racism and the intentions of even well meaning social groups. And it connects with the previous two novels by illuminating the structural constraints that inhibit full civic participation. America can sometimes be bad at asking who or what we refuse to see. So the next two novels address the people, places, and histories we ignore. Rather than disappear, though, these stories keep insisting on being part of the American story. Sing Unburied Sing, which was the 2017 National Book Award winner, is Jesmyn Ward's novel about ghosts, Mississippi, and the criminal justice system. A mixed race family travels to pick up their father, who is white, from the Mississippi Parchman prison. Along the way, there and back, they encounter many ghosts that force them to confront the demons from the past while they reside in their present. The young boy Jojo has visions on the trip that include a ghostly recreation of cotton picking near the modern prison. He also sees another boy who seeks answers to his own death in prison. And then he also sees his deceased uncle who watches over his drug addicted sister, which is JoJo's mother. These are all reminders of persistent institutions, and the novel demonstrates the material effects of the past have real consequences on the present. The connection between Ward's novel and this next book, which is Leslie Marmon Silko's Ceremony, is their vision of both history's urgency and their characters' recovery from the past. The main character is Teo, and he's a mixed race Pueblo member who's come back from World War II to his state of New Mexico. Because various forces like race, PTSD, and evil gripping the land, he feels as though he's unsettled and out of place. Through deep rooted stories and ceremony, Teo attempts to reclaim memory and land, and in turn, heal himself and it. Both the land and the people are connected, and it's through his people's stories that he interrupts the cycles that maintain his inner sickness and PTSD. Both novels insist that neither can the past be ignored, nor can real democracy occur without acknowledgement of our collective history. Through all people's stories, we could admit that we share a world with more people than have been allotted the power to control our national narrative. We have two more books on this list. One is a novel, and the other is an important nonfiction book. Together, these books share a vision of an American landscape under invisible threats. Don DeLillo's White Noise is a must read for its metaphors about the modern media landscape. Although it was published in 1985, before many of you were born, it's a vision of creeping culture of shallow sameness that feels eerily similar to the algorithmic news feeds that pump out repetitive clips in AI slop today. Up to the point of the event, the novel's central family has relied on a steady diet of pharmacology, television, supermarkets, and critical theory. And they've used those things to avoid their compounding personal issues. But an industrial accident forces the family to confront uncomfortable subjects like their own mortality and also infidelity. Over the course of several chapters, secrets are uncovered, people are shot, and revelations are had. Thus, while lots actually happens in the book, it's difficult to say whether anything is actually resolved in the end, or in the final pages, if it's just a simulation of a resolution. Often, the modern world can feel like this. We're constantly fed sounds and images from devices we don't escape. So, the Littles book asks readers a simple question: what if that noise never stops? And every piece of your reality is mediated through corporate PR firms who trade on ambient panic. I'll leave that as an open ended question. DeLillo's novel shapes a vision of the modern world that is probably at odds with the health and well being of a modern democratic society. It shows us an invisible threat that poisons the very landscape we call reality. However, reading this book will tune your ear to the very media that oversaturates the world so that you can begin to hear the difference between information and noise. Next, Rachel Carson's 1962 Silent Spring is the final bonus nonfiction book. It was born in the late 50s from Carson's observations of a bird population decline. As she began to compile more research of the area, she noticed several startling patterns in the environment. The effects of chemicals like DDT were already under scrutiny of various groups. But it was her advocacy and this book that brought the weight of the public to bear on the harmful spraying practices in rural areas. Silent Spring eventually became a bestseller, and it woke the American public to the ways corporations and the government craft narratives to support their profits. While white noise can shape our capacity to recognize manipulation and develop skepticisms about the stories that are sold to us, Silent Spring shows us how those capacities may be turned to productive means to reshape our world. From ancient Greek and Chinese philosophers to American stalwarts like Madison, Douglas, and Anna Cooper, writers and thinkers have insisted that some form of deep education is necessary to support the important work of civic society. These 10 novels provide us with a starting point, and only a starting point, to develop our minds and potential for democratic renewal. Reading fiction alone won't save us, but it will make us more capable and more attentive participants in public life. With enough people formed by that type of education, we might yet reshape this country toward a truer and fuller us. This has been Tilting at Tomes. I'm Ben. Keep up the great reading.